Antarctica is not just a continent covered in snow, it is a storage vault. The glaciers of Antarctica contain approximately 26.5 million cubic kilometers of ice. That number means nothing to the brain on its own, so let's translate it into something you can actually picture. An Olympic swimming pool holds 2,500 cubic meters of water. To hold all of Antarctica's ice, you would need more than 10 quadrillion of those pools. That is a number with 16 zeros. Or to put it another way, if all that water flowed through the Amazon River, the largest river in the world, it would carry that volume continuously for approximately 6,000 years. That is what is sitting in Antarctica right now. And that is what would pour onto the planet if it all melted in a single night. Let's start with the most concrete question. How fast does the water rise? Scientists have calculated that the complete melting of Antarctic glaciers would raise global sea levels by approximately 58 to 60 meters. If this happens in one night, over 8 hours, sea levels rise by roughly 7 meters per hour. That is nearly 2.5 floors every 60 minutes. The average ceiling height in a residential building is about 3 meters, which means every 25 minutes, coastal zones lose another floor. By the end of the first hour, beaches, waterfronts, and all coastal neighborhoods sitting below 7 meters above current sea level are underwater. This is not a gradual flood. It is a wall of water rising faster than a person can move from one apartment to another. If 7 meters doesn't sound that scary to you, subscribe. Because what comes next is the list of everything 7 meters is already enough to destroy. Now for specific addresses. What sinks and in what order? Bangladesh, a country of around 170 million people, sits at an average elevation of less than 10 meters above sea level. Most of the country disappears within the first 2 hours. The Netherlands, where roughly a third of the territory already sits below sea level and is held back by dikes, becomes irrelevant at 60 meters of rise. The country goes under completely. Florida, with an average state elevation of around 30 meters, has most of its populated areas concentrated along coastlines at elevations below 10 meters. Miami, Tampa, Orlando, underwater. London, where the historic city center sits at about 8 meters above the Thames, loses Westminster, the Tower, Big Ben, all of it by the end of the first night. Shanghai, one of the world's largest cities with more than 24 million people, sits in the Yangtze River Delta at roughly 4 meters above sea level. It disappears in the first hour. Venice, which is already sinking by a few millimeters every year, goes completely under within the first 20 minutes. Of the 10 most populous cities in the world, 7 are located in coastal zones at elevations that 60 meters of sea level rise would cover. Half of them disappear within the first few hours. But the water is only the first blow. The second one comes from above. When 26.5 million cubic kilometers of ice melt in a single night, they don't just flow into the ocean. An enormous amount of water evaporates and rises into the atmosphere. Atmospheric humidity across the planet spikes sharply, which means a radical shift in weather systems worldwide simultaneously. Warm, humid air masses collide with cold fronts and produce hurricanes of unprecedented power. Changes in ocean salinity and temperature disrupt global currents, most critically the Gulf Stream, which keeps Europe warm. Without the Gulf Stream, northern Europe begins to cool, while the rest of the planet overheats from excess humidity and the greenhouse effect. The planet's climate zones scramble. Regions that fed humanity for thousands of years are no longer suitable for agriculture. Regions that were deserts receive unpredictable rainfall. The entire global food system, built around a stable climate, becomes useless within months of this one night. What remains? The planet remains. It is not physically destroyed. The crust is intact, the core is functioning, the orbit is unchanged. But the map of the world you know, the one that hangs in classrooms and appears in navigation apps, is obsolete forever. The new coastline runs where mountain ranges stand today. The Alps become an archipelago. The Appalachians become the shore of a new inland sea. The Sahara is partially flooded from the north as the Mediterranean spills far into the continent. About 2 billion people currently live in zones that would end up underwater. That is 1 in every 4 people on the planet. Not over centuries of gradual climate change, in one night. Physics does not ask whether we are ready. It simply calculates the volume, divides by time, and delivers the result. And sometimes the result is a new map of the world missing a quarter of humanity. If you want to see more breakdowns like this, hit like.